two of our members of our club, Bill Bates for one and Nanaki Elliott for another, have worked very hard on putting together a resolution, a list of our grievances, those issues that Trump ignores relative to the Constitution. It's a well-written resolution. And we have been attempting to get it before the Pima County Board of Supervisors to have them vote to agree to sign on to the resolution. We finally have a tentative date set, November 18th. It'll be held in the Pima County Court building, I guess is what you would call it. Anyhow, the supervisors meet every other Tuesday, I believe. So November 18th, a Tuesday at 9 o'clock. I'll let you know for sure if that date is solid. So we'd love to fill up the auditorium with as many people as possible. So, okay, that's an important one. Other one that we've got coming up, December 12th, we have a holiday open house here in the plaza. It's being sponsored by the plaza, so all of the vendors will have something outside to celebrate the holidays coming up. We've got two things that we're going to do. LD19 will be on the sidewalk somewhere promoting the tree. It's a beautiful tree back there, a Northland pine. They'll be selling those for $40. At our office, we'll be serving wine and cheese and cookies, and we'll be selling poinsettias for $15. So come and join us. Be sure you put that down. We got
Sandy, we're going to have them decorated for the holiday, so if you'd like to pre-order, you can order those today.
Good. Okay. Then the next big event is our annual meeting, which is going to be a dinner. We'll have an annual meeting, half an hour at the most, and then those that would like to stick around and have paid for it, we're going to celebrate together and have a lovely catered dinner. And we're going to have wonderful piano music in the background. Rhoda, in the back, is our official pianist. She has a wonderful selection of music for us, so it'll be a very enjoyable. Yes?
Is that the Christmas?
Yep. Okay. We call it, it's our annual meeting where we vote first electing the new officers,
What is that?
and then we'll start having fun.
You write it down and I'll tell you.
The programs committee met the other day, and we put together some pretty exciting ideas. We've not necessarily lined them up. January 10th, it's a joint meeting at Quail Creek where we will meet the corporate commission candidates. There are 3 of them running, and I think you vote for 2. Oh, there are 4 of them running? And you vote for 2? Okay, you vote for 2. Then, what we would like to do, January 24th, we will invite the LD19 candidates. Those are the petitions in the back. Mid-February, we hope to get Jo Mendoza. She's the only candidate left running for CD6. Then we hope to get Hobbs, Governor Hobbs, and Attorney General Mays. That'll be in February as well. And then on March 13th is our fundraiser dinner. At that meeting, we already know we have Adrian Fontes coming. So, it's going to be great. And we've got great music that night as well. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's start getting the program going. I had little or no knowledge of either of the topics that Bill is talking tonight, crypto and AI. So I thought, well, maybe I'll go out, Google it, see if I can learn something so that I could at least ask a halfway intelligent question. Well, that was too much work. Oh my God. All the stuff that's out there. So instead, I thought, both of them are such serious topics. Is there any humor to be found?
There we go.
So I Googled jokes about AI. So this is what it says. Here are some hilarious quotes and jokes about AI that capture its quirks and our relationship with technology. Now get your leg ready, because these are knee slappers. Really. You ready for the first one? What's the opposite of artificial intelligence? natural stupidity.
Lovely. That's good.
I didn't hear any. No. All right, another one. Why did the AI go to therapy? It had too many unresolved algorithms. Why did the robot break up with its partner? They just didn't have enough bandwidth. Well, you're doing better than I didn't laugh at all. So, okay, well, let's go to crypto. Why did Bitcoin go to the gym? Because it wanted to increase its block weight. Well, Bill's laughing, so at least we got the right speaker. Why don't cryptocurrencies ever get lost? Because they always follow the blockchain. So are you going to explain to us what the blockchain is?
No.
Well, then why don't you come up and get ready to tell us what it is? You'll teach us. So Bill is on our board. He is a member at large. So it's kind of nice to have an extra person like that, because I just call up Bill and I say, Bill, check this out. Bill, check that out. Do this, do that. So I don't know how we got you to speak.
I don't know, but here we are.
I said, Bill, do this. So Bill's got a long history of wonderful, interesting things that he's done in your life, but since I've taken up too much time already, I'll just turn the mic over to you. Thanks, Bill.
Great. Thank you, Sandy. I welcome everybody this afternoon. Glad to see you all turning out. I see some familiar faces in the crowd and some that I don't know. First, I'd like to start with a couple of disclaimers. I am not an expert on crypto or AI, and I'm not here to give you any financial advice, okay? What I want to talk to you about this afternoon is how we raise public awareness into what is happening in the public policy sphere around these issues. Because whether you own crypto or whether you will ever own a stock in any AI company, what is happening is going to affect you and me and all of us. And we're here in Green Valley, we're in our golden years, right?
That's what they say.
Are we really concerned about something that's going to happen 10 years from now, 20 years? Probably not. But I'm here to tell you it's happening right now. Right now. And it's only going to escalate over the next weeks and months and years. And it's going to affect our entire society in ways in which you cannot imagine. In ways in which nothing else has ever affected us before. So with that, let me get started. So just a layman's definition of crypto to start with. Crypto is a decentralized digital currency. It exists only in the digital world, out in the internet, right? It's not something we hold in our hand or keep in our wallets. It exists in the internet. It's encrypted, and it's kept in, when you buy it, it's kept in your digital wallet, and every transaction is recorded on what's called a blockchain. Blockchain. And each block of that chain is created through what's called crypto mining. And basically this means you solve these incredibly complex mathematical problems. It requires huge computing systems. It requires huge amounts of electrical energy to do this. So there's very few on this planet who have the capability to do this mining. Its value is determined by supply and demand, so it's highly, highly volatile. We call it crypto digital currency, but it can't really be used for normal day-to-day transactions, can it? You can't take your crypto wallet and go down to Safeway over here and pay for your groceries, right? You have to convert it back into dollars before you can use it to buy things. Unless, of course, you're dealing with somebody else who has crypto, and then you can exchange your crypto on the exchange. But it's basically, the value is determined by what the next buyer is going to be willing to pay for it. Since its brief history, values have crashed many, many times. Between the 6th of January 2018 and February 6th of 2018, its values fell 65% in 30 days. Just this October 10th of 2025, a crash wiped out $19 billion in valuations. That's with a B, $19 billion.
Does that come back up, or is it gone?
I haven't followed it, I'm not invested in it, so you'd have to check that out yourself. But yeah, it's volatile. I mean, it goes up and it goes down, and there's huge, huge swings in it. So enter the tech bros. This slide says that crypto interests put $245 million into the 2024 elections. That is nowhere near what actually happened. It's not the whole story at all. Hundreds of millions more in dark money was poured in through these super PACs. Musk alone contributed $290 million to the Trump-Vance campaign. All this money resulted not only in the election of Trump and Vance, but 300 pro-crypto lawmakers were elected to our Congress. So what did the tech bros get for all this money? Well, let's start with the crypto cabinet. The appointments of Trump. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. Hester Pierce at SEC, she's also known as the crypto mom. Paul Atkins, the SEC chair. In fact, there's really only one federal agency right now that has not been basically taken over by these crypto interests, and that is the Independent Federal Reserve. And you all know what Trump would like to do to the Federal Reserve, don't you? Of course you do. The Fed is our last holdout. Deregulation. Immediately upon taking office, Trump executed an executive order to rescind all the Biden-era crypto policies. All of them. Just like that. The National Crypto Enforcement Team in DOJ was disbanded. The SEC dropped cases against Binance, Coinbase, Justin Sun, Changpeng Zhao, I hope I got that right, Russ Albright, and 3 founders of BitMEX all received pardons from criminal charges. Now we get to the Genius Act, which was one of the first acts passed by this new Congress. And among the many things that it did was it created this thing called stable coins. Remember I talked about the volatility of crypto, which is one of the huge problems. Well, the stable coin is to back up this crypto with dollars or with treasury bonds. Now, if you're going to be one of these companies that issue stable coins, you're really not going to back it up with dollars, because dollars aren't going to pay you any interest. You're going to invest in treasury bonds. And that's part of what the appeal of this was to the Congress, is that it would create more demand for treasury bonds. And that in turn would keep the interest rates down that we have to pay to service our national debt. So that was one of the primary driving factors behind it. Now, the overall point of all this is to integrate this crypto into our financial systems. So if we look back in history a little bit, we can think of times in which we had financial deregulation, right? We had deregulation back in the early 2000s. That resulted in what? The subprime mortgage crisis, the derivatives crisis, which then led us into the Great Recession. A couple other interesting things about this Genius Act. Only non-bank, privately licensed issuers can do these stable coins. Can you name one licensed non-bank issuer that is involved in this? I bet you can. It's the Trump family. Yeah, that's right. The Trump family. No, they're not the only one, but they're one of the bigger ones. I'm going to get into that in just a second here. A couple other things before I move on the Genius Act. These stable coins are not federally insured in any way. They're not classified as securities or commodities, and therefore they're not subject to oversight of the SEC or the CFTC. So again, they're just out there without much or any regulation or oversight. The FDIC and the OCC have rescinded their crypto guidance, and along with the other things that I've mentioned that happened with this act, a crypto reserve was started at the federal government. Right now, it's just made up of the assets that the federal government has seized from criminal activity. Okay. Before that, we took those assets and we turned them back into dollars. Now we're just holding them in this crypto reserve. But there are plans, folks, to take gold from our Federal Reserve and turn that into crypto. Do you know about that?
Oh, wow.
This needs to be put out into the public because this is what they plan to do. And if you think these things that I mentioned just applies to the federal government, no. Right here in our own state of Arizona, this last legislative session, the Republican-controlled legislature passed a crypto bill. And that bill would have put up to 10% of our money into crypto and the state retirement funds, of which I'm a member. You know, I paid into this retirement system, and nobody asked me whether that I wanted to put my money into crypto. They just passed this bill and said, okay, we're just going to put 10% of all the state retirement money into crypto. The governor vetoed it. Thank God we have a Democrat governor, right? Now let's talk for a minute about the Trump family. In 2021, Trump was asked about crypto, and he said crypto is a scam. A scam that competes with the United States dollar. Want no part of it. Fast forward to Trump 2024. Trump promises to make the United States a crypto capital of the world. What do you think caused that change? Could it be the realization that crypto is the ultimate grift vehicle for the Trump family?
That's right. Enrichment.
That Trump Bibles, shoes, watches, they all pale in comparison to what they can rake in off of these payoffs from their crypto, right? Let's look at some of the things that the Trump family are involved in. Start with the bottom here, the dollar Trump and the dollar Melania, what they're called meme coins or tokens. Now, when I describe crypto earlier and the blockchain and all that. Forget about all that when it comes to these coins. This is basically just selling golden shoes and saying, if you buy these shoes today, they're going to be worth X tomorrow. They're a great investment. Great investment. Get in now while the price is low. Dollar Trump meme coin fell from $9 billion to a value of $1.7 billion. Dollar Melania fell from a value of $1.6 billion to $144 million. So everybody that bought those things just took it in the shorts. Not the Trump family. 75 cents of every dollar that people put into these things went into the pockets of the Trump family. Classic pump and dump. One of the other things that Trump did very shortly on taking the oath of office was to have this big, lavish White House dinner for the top purchasers of the Trump coins. He said, if you buy a bunch of these Trump coins, we're going to entertain you and give you a big lavish dinner at the White House, and, you know, everything will be great. So one of the purchasers who got invited to that dinner was a guy called Justin Sun. And he was one of those who his case was dropped by the SEC. He bought $18 million worth of Dollar Trump. $18 million. Now I want to talk about this guy called Shangxing Zhao. Company called Binance. He did the coding for the Trump's stable coin in their World Financial or Liberation, whatever it's called. And also back in 2025, this is the guy that brought in a $2 billion investment from the UAE to invest in Trump's stablecoin. Days later, the Trump SEC dropped all remaining charges against Binance and its founder, Zhao. Then a few months later, Trump officially pardons this guy. And this is only one of several cases, but this is probably the biggest of them all. In the first 6 months of 2025, Trump and his family have realized $802 million in crypto profits. But there are billions more in unrealized paper gains from these transactions. So, what could possibly go wrong? Republicans spent, as you know, 2 years when they had the control of the Congress investigating what they call the Biden crime family. Remember all that?
Oh, yeah.
But now, they seem just fine with all this blatant corruption and all these obvious national security concerns. That they should be obvious to anybody. I shouldn't have to point them out to anyone. They're just right there in front of your face, right? When confronted with this blatant hypocrisy, the House Oversight Committee Chairman, James Comer, you remember him, he replied, this is a quote, "The difference in the way the Trump family and the Biden family operates is that they are admitting to doing this. The president and his family are openly soliciting money from domestic and foreign investors." So, in addition to the obvious national security concerns, the blatant in-your-face corruption, what else could go wrong? We mentioned earlier the 2008 Great Recession and how that came about from deregulation and so on. There's also, when you put this deregulated cryptocurrency into your financial system, how do you track tax evasion? How do you track the money laundering that's going on with those who are dealing with illicit drugs and human trafficking? It raises all those issues. And then finally, and this one I think is probably the most important thing, corruption, widespread corruption and democracy cannot coexist. It is corrosive to democracy. And wherever you find it, wherever you find this widespread corruption in a society, democracy dies. So I want to switch topics right now and talk about AI for a little bit. Obviously a huge, huge topic, but I'm just going to kind of scratch the surface here. So what is AI? AI is a computer system that can learn and perform tasks that normally require human intelligence. Every one of us right now reacts with AI every day. If you talk to Alexa or Siri, you're interacting with AI, right? We know about the self-driving cars. We're aware of the AI that was created to be the greatest chess player in the world. So those are examples of what's called narrow AI. They are developed toward a specific task. But what we're progressing to right now, and what I want to focus on is what's called AGI. That is artificial general intelligence. Now the difference is, instead of this narrow AI that I just mentioned, this is something that basically exceeds human capacity. It can do everything we can do, but it can do them better. And once you reach that stage, then it's only a short matter of time until you get to what is called superintelligence. And that's where it gets really, really scary. Because superintelligence is where it starts to write its own code and develop on its own. And at some point you have to ask, does it really need us anymore? And this is another huge topic, but I just want to touch on it. That is quantum computers. Our conventional computers that we use every day are binary. They're zeros and ones. Everything is zero, some combination of zeros and ones. Quantum computers are developed on scientific physics, and they use what's called qubits. These qubits can be both 0 and 1. It may not sound like such a big deal, but the leap is exponential. Exponential. We have our cell phones, and you know that if you've had one for 1 or 2 years, it's probably obsolete, because there's already a new one that's come out. The chips that they use are much more powerful, they're much faster. But this quantum computing it's a world apart from that. It's an exponential change. They have these now in a scaled down form, and they work. And what they've been able to do is test it against conventional computers. And a problem that a conventional computer would take billions of years to solve, this thing can resolve in minutes. That's the kind of exponential change that we're talking about. A conventional computer playing chess would look at the board, it would take every move and look at it one at a time. Okay, it does this very fast, mind you, but it still has to analyze every single move. The quantum computer analyzes every move at once, instantaneously. Imagine that kind of computing power. Imagine what that means in our society. All of us have codes, right? We have passwords and codes to our bank accounts and all this other stuff out there. With this kind of computing power, it can drain every bank account across the world just like that. This is not science fiction, folks. It's real. It's real. It's here right now.
What nations are using?
Pardon me?
What nations are using that computer?
It's being developed here in the United States, but also in Japan, in China, in Europe. So this technology, a few years ago, you can go on YouTube right now, and you can look up this quantum computing. And if you look at a video that was done, say, last year, it will tell you that this technology is 10 to 15 years in the future. But if you look at one that's been done within the last couple weeks, it will tell you it's 2 to 3 years away. And Google has just announced a major new chip that overcomes some of the problems of scaling this thing up. So right now it's probably 5 to 6 years down the road. The problem, and I don't want to confuse anybody to think that you're going to have a quantum computer in your house. That's not how this is going to work. These things have to be kept in pristine environments to keep this quantum entanglement working. They have to be kept at near absolute zero conditions. But it's going to tie into all of our conventional computers. That's how it's going to be used. Quantum computers, as I mentioned, I think earlier, are capable of solving a complex problem in minutes that a conventional computer would take billions of years. The other thing I want to mention briefly here is this explosion of data centers, because it's something that we can see right here locally. It's huge. They're springing up like weeds all over the world. And right here in Arizona, we have our own share of that. Data centers and AI tech, if you looked at the growth of the economic growth in the United States over the first 6 months of the year, they represented 92% of the GDP growth in the first half of 2025. If you took out all this investment in these tech centers and AI, you would be left with a growth rate of 0.1%. That's basically stagnant. So our economy right now is being driven almost entirely by this investment in data centers and AI. It's just a tremendous growth. The projected expenditures on data centers in 2025 worldwide totals 1.5 trillion. That's with a T. The projected expenditures in 2026 are $2 trillion. Arizona is a major target of this investment. In Pinal County, there is a AI data center plant of 3,300 acres and a $33 billion investment. Right here in Pima County, we have 3 that are in the planning stages right now. You're probably a bit aware of Project Blue and the controversy about that, but there are a couple of others too that have popped up. Environmental concerns, number one is probably the electrical demand. These data centers are expected to increase electrical consumption by 22% in 2025, and by 2028, all of the electrical demand in the country, about 12% of it will be consumed by these data centers. In Arizona, 16.5% of our total demand will be by data centers in 2030. The estimated electrical demand total for here in Arizona is 29,000 megawatts, and that is enough to serve about 5 million homes. In addition to that, they're very large water users, which we have to be concerned about here in our desert environment. And if you live close to them, you're probably going to get a bunch of noise pollution. Now I want to talk about the real elephant in the room when it comes to AI. Jobs. In our overall economy, at the end of 24, I looked this up, and our workforce totals 170.38 million people. In the next 10 years, the AI experts tell us that there's going to be about a 50% job reduction here in the U.S. That's 85 million jobs in the next decade. I've heard this as high as 100 million. And it's not something that's speculative or maybe it's going to happen. It's happening. And I want to go through a few numbers with you. Amazon, in October, cut 14,000 jobs out of their total. They're one of the biggest employers in the country. They employ 1.1 million people.
Wow.
So they've already eliminated, just in October, 14,000 jobs. But they have announced they have plans to automate 600,000 jobs. 600,000 jobs. UPS announced a reduction of 34,000 in 2025. Meta, 8,000. Just to name a few others here, Target has announced 1,800 corporate layoffs. That's about 8% of their workforce. Nestle has announced 16,000 jobs eliminated. ConocoPhillips, 25% of their workforce. Intel, 25,000 jobs eliminated, over about 15% of their workforce. Microsoft, 9,000 jobs. Procter & Gamble, 7,000 jobs. Just in October alone, the American economy eliminated 153,074 jobs. That's a reduction of 175% from just 1 year ago. 1 year ago. Nationally, that's the worst October we've had in 20 years in terms of job losses. The CEO of one of these tech companies is developing AI, and I can't remember his name right offhand. He says that 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs will be eliminated in the next 5 years. So think about that. If you're a college student right now, and you're expecting to graduate in 4 years, and you're coming out of that university with tens of thousands of dollars in debt, and this is what's awaiting you. Are we ready for this? Does anybody think we're ready for this? Our society is ready for this? I certainly don't.
The old argument about, buggy whips and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
You be trained to sell insurance.
There are people that will say, we've been through this before. We had the Industrial Revolution, we had electricity, we had the computer age, all these things. And yes, jobs were eliminated. If you were making buggies, maybe you got a job making cars in Ford's plant, right? But that's not the way this works. That's not the way this works.
Service job.
AI is eliminating these jobs permanently. I listened to one of actually the CEO and the creator of OpenAI. And here's what he said. Every job that we have is from human brain power and our manual labor. All of those jobs can be done by AI. All of them. 100% of them can. Now, if you're a computer programmer, you got more to worry about real soon, because in the next 12 months, you probably won't have a job because AI will be writing those codes. If you're a plumber or electrician, you've got a little bit more time because these jobs that require the manual dexterity and so on and so forth, that has to be integrated with your robotics. But that's coming too. I used to say, if you had a job as a plumber, you're pretty safe, but I can't say that anymore. So it's not all gloom and doom, right? I mean, AI can do some great things for us. I mean, it has tremendous potential. It's definitely going to make us all more productive, right? And being more productive, we're going to have more leisure time. It promises better health. When you get into these supercomputers, and especially this quantum, the ability to create new prescription drugs, to cure diseases, all of this is just, it's an open book. And that can make all of our lives better, right? We'll live longer, we'll be healthier, we'll have more choices. AI can give us new ways of clean energy. It can help us with the climate change, all these things, right? But what are we going to do as a society when we no longer have work? Have we even thought that through?
People will be obsolete.
Yeah. I've got a quote for that later. I want to end with that. So, I'm not here to tell you today that any of this can be stopped, because it's like a freight train and it's running down the track and we don't have a brakeman in there. What I'm saying is we've got to at least tap the brakes a little bit and think about what our society is going to look like and how in the world we're going to mitigate some of these terrible things that could be a consequence. Part of it is this race is between countries, obviously. It's kind of similar back to the nuclear arms race and the space race. Whoever gets there first has the huge advantage, and certainly we can understand that. If you got one of these quantum computers, you can start breaking all these codes and getting into all kinds of secrets and wiping out financial banks and shutting down electrical grids and all this stuff. So yeah, there's certainly a reason to try to be the first. I also want to mention Big Brother, and I don't have time to really get into this because there's so many aspects of it, but one of the things I want you to pay attention to is what's happening in the federal government and all of our personal data. When Musk came in with all of his kids, and they just ransacked everything and ran off with all the data they could download out of our government agencies. And now there's been a $10 billion contract that's been awarded to this company called Palantir. Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel. You know him. He's the guy that invented J.D. Vance and financed him and made him VP and all that stuff. This particular contract was awarded to DOD. They also have contracts throughout our federal government, in ICE, in Health and Human Services, in the IRS, in the U.S. Special Operations Command. Here's what they state in their company brochure. They provide data analytics and AI software platforms to help agencies aggregate data, improve efficiency, and enhance operational capabilities. I'm going to tell you what they do is spy. They surveil. And if you think they're just going to be surveilling people that are undocumented, you don't understand this administration. They're going to be surveilling every one of us. And this ties into this I forget what the NSP 7 or something like that, where Trump just basically declared that everybody's that's in opposition to him as un-American potential terrorists, right? So that's where we are. That's where we are. And that should scare the hell out of you, because it scares the hell out of me. J.D. Vance, Peter Thiel, and other MAGA mega donors met at this little town in Rockbridge, Ohio. And what they were discussing was the goal to equip MAGA to outlive Donald Trump. Among other things, they were discussing how to manipulate the law, our elections, to their advantage, and also using all of this mined personal data to target voters in the upcoming elections. So what can be done? Well, you have to start like this, because you have to raise public awareness. We're just hit today with just a fire hose of stuff, right? You can hardly even catch your breath. It's coming at you so fast. So how do people keep up with stuff like this? AI and crypto and all these technical things. And so they're just rolling in under the radar. But they're going to affect every one of us. And it's not just coming, it's here. So we've got to raise public awareness. The real danger lies in who has access to these technologies. Because you can imagine the criminals or the terrorists with access to this type of technology that can basically just wipe out your bank accounts and do all this other crazy stuff. So we need sensible government regulation and oversight. We need to protect our environment when it comes to these big, huge AI centers. And somehow, some way, we're going to have to get workers involved. Because they're about to lose their jobs, and we don't know what the hell we're going to do with all these millions of unemployed people. We don't know. Nobody's talking about it. So we need worker involvement. We need to start talking about things like decreased work weeks, profit sharing. We need to be taxing these oligarchs. We need to be talking about a robot tax as they replace all of our workers out there, and how we can use some of that money for retraining and providing basic services for people. And most of all, when it comes to this AI thing, we need international cooperation, because this race to get to the top is not going to provide us with security. We need some type of international group that's looking at this stuff and can start looking at some fail-safes. Because once this superintelligence is unleashed, you can't just unplug it. That ain't going to work, because it will escape and it will get out there into the wild. Once we have all of these computer systems, these AI places all over the world that I talked, springing up like weeds, we have the robotics and everything else. So there's just a few chips that go into these things. We could be looking at some kind of coding within the chips so that we could turn them off in case of an emergency. And that's the kind of thing we need to be looking at. So, if I told you all that in this container, you could drink that, and your life would be healthier, and you would live longer, and you would be happier, but there's a 30% chance it'll kill you. Would you drink it? Would you drink it if I told you there was a 5% chance? I wouldn't either. But that's what the experts in AI are telling us right now, is the range of dangers of letting this AI just go unregulated. So it's really not a small and insignificant risk. I think most people, would want to analyze what's in the container, maybe take a sip and then see what happens, but not just gulp it down all at once. As I was doing my research and preparing my remarks for today, I ran across this letter, and it's signed by over 350 signatories in the AI industry. And it's a warning. And there were previous warnings to this. Stephen Hawking, before he died, also warned about the dangers of AI. And what they say in this letter, just as a summary, is that mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. And again, there were over 350 signatories to that. So, what I want to leave you with is this quote that I saw from a podcaster, and he was asking the AI expert about these risks involved, and he said, well, you know, there's a 25% chance that AI will wipe us all out. But there's a 75% chance that it will keep us as pets.
Oh my God.
So I'll thank you for your attention and for your comments and questions. Yes,
I shall come around. I've got the mic. He's got a question here first. Please raise your hand. Keep it a question, and keep it down to less than a minute.
Bill, although I understand the dire need to prepare for the worst, all these dire predictions, thank you, that we're looking at, how do we know they're accurate? Might there be some blocks that will slow down the rate of improvements in these areas, AI and so forth? And who's it that's making all these predictions anyway? Can we trust them? Aren't they largely people that are invested in the industry because they want to encourage more investment and so forth?
that's an excellent point. And yeah, many of the things that I'm quoting here to you today are people that are in the industry. But when people in the industry, those who depend on this for their livelihood, are warning us about some of these things, I think it makes it even more important that we listen.
Yeah, I'd just like to, something that occurs to me is that 50% of the white-collar jobs will be eliminated in the next 5 years. That's a lot of people that won't be paying into Social Security for a lot of us that are relying on Social Security to get by monthly.
Yeah, it affects all that, right? Because right now the big crisis in Social Security is we have a shrinking ratio of workers to retirees. So as we went through all these job cuts, you can imagine what's happening to our Social Security fund, of course.
Where's the pushback coming from, if any? Any other countries, corporations, ACLU, anything out there happening?
Well, the encouraging thing was this, I mentioned earlier this signatories, this 350 signatories, and there is a group that's been put together for AI safety. And so they're starting to look into this thing. But what we have to do as citizens is we have to educate ourselves enough to be able to vet the people that run for office and to hold them accountable and say, look, maybe we should tap the brakes on some of this stuff a little bit and understand where we're going and at least have some idea of how we're going to mitigate this stuff. Right now, one would expect a competent government would have commissioned a group of experts in labor and economics and all this stuff to be looking at these issues and saying, here are some things we need to be concerned about it, and here are some public policy things that we think can be done to address it. Has anyone heard of that?
No. Not with the.
That's my point.
You know I couldn't stay silent. I think, there's some things we have to keep in mind that if you start to look at quantum computing, it's not so much the quantum computing, it's part of particle physics. And it's a foregone conclusion that we know that these things are entangled. They can be used to increase the likelihood that things can be moved faster. And that if you start to talk about AI, large language models that are run by mathematics rather than a librarian, say, that's a foregone conclusion. All this is going to happen. Our real challenge really is to figure out two things. And you've been very eloquent and hit on the idea that there's huge political risk backed by strange, unregulated manners of raising currency and spending Bitcoin and all that to get what you want. But the other thing is we're totally unprepared, I think, to understand what the societal changes will be. And we think it's beyond our lifetime, but it's really not.
No, it's not.
If you watched Avatar, you watched a model for a movie that already had compiled all of the digital information ever made in movies before in one movie.
Keep it to a question and a minute, please.
I think this lady had a question.
Yeah, that's where I'm
We have a
coming.
question.
We want to
It's more
record.
as a comment, not so much a question. This is going to happen in all the other countries in the world.
Yeah.
We're not going to be the only ones.
Right.
So it's going to be disastrous for everyone in the world.
Exactly, and that's why I mentioned that it's beyond just us. We need international cooperation on these things so that these new technologies can be developed to help humanity and not to do the other things.
Bill, any idea on if we have 10% of our federal government now investing in crypto, if Trump goes down with Epstein, what's going to happen to the Federal Reserve? That's number one question. The second question is, has anybody asked AI how to protect us from AI?
AI is actually developing AI. That's what's going on. They're using AI to improve it and make it bigger and more impactful to our society. As to crypto, if Trump has his way and the pro-crypto people have their way, we're going to be looking at integrating this into our financial systems. I talked about the risk that's involved in that. They're going to be converting some of our gold reserve into this stuff. So the risk just keeps going up. We've got to get to our legislatures to let them know we don't accept that. That's not what we want. Nobody asked me, like I said, when the Arizona State Legislature said we're going to put 10% of your retirement money into crypto. Nobody asked me if I wanted to do that. They just passed a damn bill.
Just a comment, because it makes me think about what I read about the history of living things, is that the species that survive are the ones that are capable of change and can change with changing environments. We are looking like we're facing that.
Yes, we are indeed, and like I mentioned earlier, this is unlike any change we've ever been through before because it's happening so rapidly and it's going to have such an impact upon the society as a whole. We just don't know what humanity is going to look like when we don't have jobs anymore. When AI does everything for us. And beyond that even, we don't even know how we're going to make a living or how we're going to pay for this stuff.
We're going to have one more question, and then you can stick around and ask Bill all the kind of questions as long as he will stay. And his wife will allow him to stay too.
When you say that the gold reserve could be changed into crypto, what is the value of gold going to become? And we have all these rare earths that if they start creating different, I don't even understand how they could do that. How could they change gold reserve into crypto?
Well, as you know, the price of gold has really just went through the roof.
Yeah.
And that's because of economic uncertainty, right? That's what's called the flight to safety. Whenever you're afraid about stocks and bonds and all the other stuff that you invest in, people go to precious metals. And so the price of gold has escalated, and the Trump administration are looking on this hungrily. Hungrily. Because we have this gold reserve, and we convert that into crypto, and guess what happens? When you convert it into crypto, all of a sudden demand for crypto goes up, and all these people like the Trumps who are involved in the crypto industry, the price goes up, and so they all make huge amounts of money.
We want to thank you, Bill. There's a lot more questions I know I could ask, so thank you for being here. We appreciate it.